Welcome to Workbook Wednesday with METAVarsity. Thank you for joining in. Today I thought we could have a look at sigils because they are quite powerful in assisting us with affirmations as they are made from positive statements that link to the power of words. I love sigils because too often we can forget to say our affirmations, or when we say them we don't really believe them but feel that I must say them because I want to manifest something in my life. Or we don't say them because we get caught up in life and we forget. Yes, we have the intention to say them three times a day or more, but it never turns out that way, and then we wonder why the affirmations don't work. So, sigils serve as a reminder, but let's discover what a sigil is. A sigil is a symbol. It's a symbol that represents a specific goal, desire, or ambition that you'd like to bring into your real life. And that is exactly what an affirmation is. So used with a sigil creates a visual reminder of the affirmation, and so you then repeat the affirmation when you see the sigil and think of and visualize the goal. So it's a wonderful way to bring the affirmation alive. Using sigils is powerful, and it is a tool to add to your spiritual toolkit. They give concrete form to ideas and help to focus all the power of your unconscious mind on making that idea a reality. And they are great to use in ceremonial magic too. They add dimension to what you already know. Sigils or symbols are everywhere today, and even used by corporates and big business in their corporate branding, for example, McDonald's. So they've been around for many more years than we actually realize. The word sigil is derived from the Latin word sigillum, or sigillum, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but it means seal. It is also thought to be related to the Hebrew word segula, meaning word, action, talisman, or item that has a spiritual effect or meaning. In the darker medieval times, when ceremonial magic was being practiced, the term sigil referred to the occult signs that represented various angels and demons, which the practitioner might summon. These sigils were considered to be equivalent to the true name of the spirit, and thus granted the practitioner a measure of control over these beings. In modern-day uses, the concept of the sigil was made popular by Austin Osman Spare, and is really the method of reducing words of a statement into an abstract design and charging it with one's will and intent, and the technique has become known as sigilization and is a core element of chaos magic. Our subconscious minds are extremely powerful, but our subconscious mind isn't the best at understanding English. It understands basic communication like emotions and images. Just think of all the images you've associated with corporations or brands. When we have a thought or emotion that makes us feel bad, and we accept either as truth, our subconscious mind will continue to create circumstances that match that belief. Affirmations have the same effect because after a while, they begin to create a feeling within us. If the affirmation is a positive one that we associate with positive feelings and thoughts, and we have seen the positive effects show up in our lives, then it adds to that positive feeling. But if the affirmation is negative, the results showing up in our lives will be the same, until we can learn to reprogram our subconscious mind by changing the core belief. Sigil magic, or using sigils or symbols, short-circuits our affirmations into a simplified version that our subconscious mind can recognize instantly. When working with a sigil, the power comes from the act of creating the symbol itself. The process of taking an intention and transforming it into a magic symbol encodes the meaning of that symbol and its magical potential into your subconscious. The point of doing this is to be able to bypass the doubts, restrictive beliefs, and self-consciousness of the conscious mind and tap directly into the power of the subconscious, where your power isn't restricted by those limitations. This is powerful stuff. And the activation of a sigil is like using a password that gives you access to the fullest extent of your power in one quick burst. So when wanting to create a sigil, you think of the intention and then think of an affirmation in the present tense that is linked to that intent or intention. So perhaps you want to lose weight. So design an affirmation around losing weight. Your first step will be to figure out what the intent of your sigil is going to be. This is the most important step. Your intention should be well thought out and very clear. A half-assed intention will lead to a half-assed result. Then you're going to turn this concept into a sentence. Make sure you're being specific and precise with your wording. You want the sentence to be relatively short, and it needs to be phrased in the present tense. Example, phrase it as though you've already got what you want, and if necessary, refer to last week's discussion or Workbook Wednesday topic, which was all about affirmations or creating conscious thought patterns. Then you're going to write out the statement or your intention or your goal. And then when you've done that, you're going to cross out all the vowels in the sentence that you wrote. What you're left with are consonants. Remove or cross out repeated consonants. And then take the remaining letters and rewrite them in a jumble. As you read the vowel-free sentence, you'll find your eye drawn to certain letters, shapes, and orders. You want to break that up a little bit more, and an easy way to do this is to write them in a grid or a circle. And you'll see this method used a lot in various forms of sigil magic. Many people also write the letters in capital form, which helps to blur the line between, say, the first letter of a name and some random letter from another word. Rearrange the letters until you have a new symbol, or just write out the letters, playing with their design, curving, blending the letters into each other, and that's the fun part, until you get a new symbol. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. So let yourself play with the shapes until you have a symbol that to you looks right. You can combine the lines of one letter, loops of another, place letters over each other, drop letters that don't fit, make new shapes. Don't think too much about it. Just go with the flow and have fun. Have lots of paper and doodle until you make something you like. And as soon as you make the right symbol, you'll instinctively know. This is an example of a simple sigil that was designed to represent sleep heals my body and mind. Here you can see a sigil or sigils that were designed for the affirmation or statement, my income increases constantly. So you'll see on the screen the statement itself, and then the letters and the vowels that have been crossed out, and then all the repeated consonants until you're left with the letters Y, R, S, T, O. And as you can see, the letters that were left over were played around with until these three sigils were reached. And which was the When using sigils as a reminder of the affirmation, so that I say the affirmation, I draw the sigil on a part of my body that I can see, and this helps to remind me of the affirmation, and then I say the affirmation 3 times with intent every time I look at the sigil or get a glimpse of it. I use henna as this stays on longer than ink, and I use the inside of my wrist in winter or my foot in summer, as I'm mostly barefoot in summer. And it's like having a temporary tattoo, except you designed it yourself. When you create a sigil, you're investing it with a certain amount of emotional importance. For a sigil to be effective, however, it requires more than just the energy invested in the creation. It needs to be activated. And while designing your sigil, you've built up a substantial amount of psychological, emotional, mental, and spiritual and creative tension all around this symbol. So for the sigil and your subconscious to do its work, you have to release that tension. And this is called activating the sigil. So what you need to do is create a quiet, distraction-free environment. And there's a simple reason why traditional magic rituals are done at night by candlelight or under the light of the moon. It's not that one time of day is inherently more powerful than another. It's simply because it's easier to focus your attention when you're not distracted by the normal activities of daily life. So turn off your phone, TV, turn down the lights, Unplug or cover up anything that you find distracting. The sigil activation takes about 15 minutes, so don't worry about missing anything important. Create a focus area. One of the practical reasons for things like protection circles you see in popular occult fiction has very little to do with anything supernatural. It's about creating a physical area where everything around you reinforces the mood and emotional state you're trying to evoke. So really, it's equivalent to a sacred space. Creating a rough circle around you composed of things that are important to you or which strongly relate to the sigil you're about to activate helps keep your mind focused during the activation process. Along the same lines, turning off the room lights and working under the light of a few nearby candles helps to keep all the distracting everyday world in the shadows, at least for the duration of the ritual. Some people find that certain kinds of music or incense help them focus, while others find these too distracting. Use what you need to create the focus. Quieten your mind. Just like you've removed the distractions from your physical environment, you must now do the same for your mind. You don't need to meditate or go into a trance. You just need to close your eyes and take a dozen or so deep breaths. Clear your mind of all thoughts, just for a moment or two. Light your candle and get your bowl ready. And now you invoke the sigil. If you've already created your sigil, it's in your hand, and if not, you'll simply want to draw the sigil again on a new piece of paper. You can use pen or pencil. Don't worry if you're not much of an artist. This is about the intent behind the sigil, not about being a perfect artist. You can also trace an existing sigil, which is a great way to activate a sigil that you didn't draw yourself. Yes, you can look them up on the internet, but doing your own is more creative, fun, and serves many purposes. But the act of redrawing the sigil helps to bring all of the emotional investment or the energy back from your subconscious mind to the forefront of your mind. Focus on what the sigil represents. Look at the symbol you've created and remember the reason why you wanted it. Look at all the shapes and the angles. Listen to your emotions. There's always a chance that what you actually want isn't what the sigil represents, in which case there's little point in activating it. If that happens, use what you've learned and repeat the sigil creation process to create a new one. It should only take a few moments, and you can do it right on the spot. Once it feels right, move on to the next step, which is to discharge the sigil. And there are lots of ways to discharge the emotional investment of the sigil. And in this case, you're going to burn the paper that you've drawn it on. So you light one side of the paper that you've drawn the sigil on, place it carefully in the bowl, making sure not to singe yourself in the process or burn anything down, and watch it as it burns. And imagine, as it burns, that all of the emotional investment you've placed in the sigil, as well as the idea it represents, is being transformed into a new form made of the universal forces of light and heat. Imagine that light and heat radiating out from this moment into your past and future, and imagine the glow of the sigil's tiny light spreading across your entire life. And watch it until the flame goes out. And don't worry if the flame accidentally goes out during the process. It doesn't mean that the sigil activation has failed or anything supernatural. Some paper burns better than others. Simply relight the remaining paper. The power of this step comes from the intention to release the tension behind the sigil, not whether or not it catches light. And then the last step is just to let it go. Once the flame of the sigil's paper has gone out, the sigil is discharged. The process has started, and it no longer needs your attention. Let the sigil and what it represents go. It will work the exact same, even if you never think about it again. That doesn't mean you should avoid the sigil or anything. It's a piece of art, and you made it. But now that it has been discharged, think of it as something like a souvenir. Take a nice, deep breath, and then congratulate yourself. You just created magic. Sigils have been around forever, and they're used to create magic. You can use them to add power to your affirmations, so you can create a sigil for every affirmation you write. You can play with the letters, doodle them, scroll them, calligraphy them. You can have lots of fun because they're easy to do and create. And it's a symbolic tool to help you visualize and ground your affirmation. And you can even use them when you practice ceremonial magic. So you can go and create your own sigil linked to your affirmations, or even use the sigils when you do ceremonial magic. You can make them as elaborate as you like, adding colour or different material to draw them, such as koki, pastel, watercolour paint, or even use coloured paper. Whatever you use, just have fun. You can try it with your kids or friends, but just have fun creating your sigils. Thank you for joining Workbook Wednesday. Until next time, namaste.